I'm joined today by Shafeeq Abrams, who's the CEO of the Eskom Pension and Provident Fund. And I think let's just call it EPPF from this point forward, because otherwise it's going to get very, very long. And also Sonja Saunderson, who's the Chief Investment Officer of the fund. And you guys had a session this morning focused primarily on the sustainable investments in South Africa. So give us a bit of a rundown. Maybe Shafeeq, if you can start first, just give us a broad overview, and then Sonja can maybe unpack some of the details for us. Good morning.
Yeah, thanks, Brett. Thank you for the opportunity. I think firstly, we're excited to launch our inaugural thought leadership seminar titled Beyond Tomorrow with the EPPF. Key discussion points was unpacking our sustainable investment policy, which draws on our experience of the past around transformation, diversity within the asset management industry, but also extends to impact investing. And now we've also included climate change and environmental regeneration as the cornerstone of that policy. So we were pleased to unpack that policy, the key focus, key SDGs that we'll be driving, and the thrust of the policy, which really centers around economic parity, social injustice, and environmental regeneration. And with that, we've also managed to touch on two key areas of the implementation side of the policy, which is diversity and a representation of women within asset management, firstly, and secondly, infrastructure and the challenges experienced to unlock investments in infrastructure within the South African landscape. I'll ask Sonja to maybe unpack a little bit more detail around the policy.
Yes, Chris, thank you for the opportunity. We chatted to the audience today a little bit about work that we're very excited about and feel passionate about. I think the EPPF has got a long and proud journey and history of sustainable investing for its members, to make sure that we not only create value for them, but that we also have an impact within the South African society, and that we also consider other aspects like the environment, like the society, like the economy, and that we really want to be action leaders in terms of making a difference also going forward. So we discussed a little bit where we come from, and then to Shafeeq's point just now, the journey that we now are embarking on is a more holistic journey that still encompasses all the good things that we have learned in the past, but a more holistic journey from recognizing the fact that there are several planetary boundaries. Those are things like biodiversity, like the ozone, like climate, 9, in fact, planetary boundaries that if we don't take stock of it and we don't take it seriously, that we could cross those planetary boundaries. And we therefore need to have a more holistic approach in investment management, because that will adversely affect our members. So for us, that meant that we don't just think about sustainability from a maintenance and doing no harm perspective, the sort of traditional adage within the industry, but to make sure that we extend it beyond that, and that we preserve it for generations to come by having a more urgent focus, a more impactful focus from a regeneration perspective. So the 3 areas that Shafeeq mentioned, social justice, environmental regeneration, as well as for us focusing on economic parity, is critical areas for us that we feel our members in the fund are facing as challenges on a daily basis. This is something that cuts across all of our asset classes, all of our decision making, all of the work that we're doing with fund managers. And today was really to unpack how we will be tackling a lot of those principles or those cornerstones of our sustainability approach. And this really cuts across things like us being net zero asset owners, actually officially from today, something that we're excited about. It means that we'll need to work with companies within South Africa as well as asset managers in South Africa to say, how do we align to a net zero objective at 2050, and what are interim steps that we can take in our portfolio that's true and real to get us to that particular point. It also means that we want to be more impactful from a societal perspective, and we therefore commissioned some research with the Gordon Institute of Business Science for us to look at what the problems are for women being represented in the industry. Why are they not represented enough in leadership positions and in the serious investment making roles? They're often in support roles, and there's lots of women in the industry, but only 17% or close to 20% of our industry represents females from a fund management perspective. So we have been successful within the EPPF ourselves to have a more diverse and inclusive staff contingent, whether you look at our Exco and whether you look at our investment management unit. But we wanted to first and foremost understand what are the problems within our industry, or what are the problems with women's decision making to not lead them into being more represented within the industry. So we had a panel discussion around that. And there are certain interventions that we want to put in place, some things that we've always had in the past of growing talent and developing talent within the industry, but also newer interventions that we want to put in place in our dialogues with companies and with fund managers to ensure that they also promote more gender diversity within their businesses. And I think the last concluding point from our conversation this morning was really that we also see ourselves from a financial inclusion perspective playing a bigger role within the society. So as infrastructure is an important investment for us, so too it is for other pension funds. But for a lot of other pension funds, because of their size and because of the costs of these projects, it's often very difficult to get the pipeline, to have sufficient capital, to have ticket sizes to play with in the infrastructure space. So one of the initiatives that we're working on to make sure that we also address economic disparity within South Africa is to promote and to start off with a listed vehicle or a pooling vehicle, if you will, on behalf of ourselves and other asset owners in South Africa that will crowd in capital, and to define then working with both private and public segment to mobilize assets a little bit more and to make sure that smaller pension funds and actually also the retail man on the street will be able to access infrastructure more holistically going forward. So that's an exciting initiative that we're also working on going forward.
Fantastic. That's very encouraging. And to your point as well, I think, the EPPF is one of the major funds in the country. I think a lot of the funds also look up to the EPPF and what you guys are doing, and take their lead from those aspects. So very encouraging. Well done. It sounds very promising. And I really want to thank both of you for your time. I think it's exciting times ahead. So good luck and well done. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.